Okay, I don't know if you guys can hear me very well or not. I got my wife holding the camera here. This is going to be a quick video on how to replace. Okay, I don't know if you guys can hear me very well or not. I got my wife holding the camera here. So I'm going to be replacing this vertical post and these lock nuts. So if you guys buy the lock nuts, the new Union lock nuts, you will have to remove that post, which is a bit tricky. Your stuff will come in a package like this. It is a little bit tricky, but it's not that complicated. You'll need some leather, nice and thick leather. Don't get the cheap chintzy crap. You can usually buy it at like Joann's or someplace like that. And you'll need a small pair of vice grips and a small hammer, which I don't have right now, which I'll get here in a second. Give me one sec. Grab a hammer. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do, hold the plane still and just kind of, not hard, just tap it. This is actually really corroded and rusty and all that happy jazz. So you want to just kind of loosen everything up. Next thing you're going to do is, I'm trying to do this where you guys can see, you're going to take your leather and wrap it around. Now this is the part that gets tricky, right? Because you don't want to damage these threads. Make it long enough where you can hold it. Take your vice grips, squeeze down on the leather. That's too loose. You want it to be tight. So tighten it down. You want to have to really crank down. That's what the leather's there, just to protect the nuts. See that now? This is just going to slide back and forth as it sits, right? It's not actually moving that nut. So you'll take and tighten this down a little bit more and get it back on there again. If you keep trying, when it's really hard to crank down on your vice grips, that's where you're at. That's where you need to be. Now this is the non-union way of doing this. I have a tool that I've made to take these off, but there's no point in selling you guys a tool to take these off if you're only going to do it once. Doesn't make sense. Now, if you have 15 planes you want to replace the vertical post and whatnot, get a hold of me. I'll get you the tool. Give me one second. I've got to actually go grab a mallet. Alright, so basically you need a mallet to jar this. The key is the thread fit here. The thread fit here down into there is a interference fit. The thread actually goes in the boss down here. That thread is basically touching on all angles. That's what locks this in place. Now, in this particular case, this is corroded, so it's actually going to make it more difficult. Most of the guys that are going to replace these, obviously, aren't going to replace them if they're not corroded. So you're going to run into this problem where it's being extra hard to get out. Again, you got to really get grip on here. Now I'm actually getting a good grip, and it just turned. Back off of it. Got this on here so good that I'm going to have to pry it off. So again, I'm doing this in a way where you guys could do this in your shop as well, right? Our shop, we're equipped a little differently. Like I said, I have a tool that does this, but at your shop's probably not going to have that tool, so this is the way you would do it. And your leather is what's protecting your post. If you're just replacing the nuts and not the post, you'll want to do it this way. If you're replacing both the post and the nuts, it doesn't really matter. So as you can see, and I'm replacing the post and the nuts on this, so I'm going to go ahead and just get it off of there At this point, I actually could do it without really damaging it, because it's, as you can see, it's already loose. So now, once you get it to where you can turn it by hand, which is almost there, once you get it where you can turn it by hand, then you're going to take this top nut and roll it up out of the way. The bottom nut, roll it up out of the way. You'll hold the bottom nut and turn the post. As you can see here, we have the nuts out, or the posts out. Now hold everything here. Take the top nut off, which in this case is actually going to be quite difficult because this thing is pretty corroded. Take this top nut off. But this is the reason for replacing these, by the way. Just keep turning it. And in this case, I'm probably going to have to hit it with a little bit of a wire brush because it's hanging up. Yeah, it's hanging up. The good thing to do would be to take some WD-40 and spray this down beforehand, or some mineral spirits. In this case, I'm just literally going to clean the threads off lightly, just so that there's nothing getting in there in the threads to stop it from rolling out of there. Some of these are in here really, really tight tolerance, so they're not going to want to cooperate to come out. In this case, this one's pretty rusted, so I'm going to hold this in the middle and just light hold. Crank the nut off the top there. Remove the nut. You're going to come down here, lift this up, out of the way, and there you have your vertical post has been replaced. So it's not a big deal, as I was saying before. It's, however, you got to be gentle, because you can break that boss. You put too much pressure on it, you got to kind of feel where it's at, or you'll break the boss. Take this one off over here. I'll clean these, throw these in some cleaner, and if a plane needs a replacement nut just to go away, it's got it. Now this is a Type 1 plane, or what was it? Was a Type 1 plane, and it's getting proper Type 1 replacement parts. So anyways, now the next thing you would do, this is a replacement post. This is made out of 01 tool steel, which is actually stronger than the original. This would have been mild steel. So this would go back in. Now, in order for you to replace this, you got to do the reverse of what you did to take it off. This is going to go upside down on the bottom. Now, this has been monkeyed with a little bit, so you don't want to go in from the bottom here. You'll turn it upside down, go to the top. Now remember, these are tight. These are really, really, really tight. Now I'm going to grab down here very, very, very carefully and crank this on. And again, these are actually tight on purpose to make the adjustment better. I actually need to put a little bit of put this leather on here so I don't screw up the threads and it won't go in the bottom down there. And again, you just want a good enough grip to where you can crank these down on here. In this case, once these are on and you get them, you start using them every now and again, you'll find that everything will start to loosen up a little bit. And these, like I said, these are really tight. By design, they are tight, very tight. So the first time you put them on here, it's going to be a bit of an effort. And then once you get them down through, the brass will kind of wear into the tool steel. It's kind of like, fitting itself in. You'll see there's a little bit of debris, a little bit of brass debris. That brass debris is because the nut is actually adapting itself to the post. See, it'll still roll. Now see, it's rolling perfect now. But there's no wiggle. No wiggle in there. So again, they're done like that on purpose. Now I got to be careful again. You got to be with the replacement posts. You got to be careful not to mess that thread up. Now you'll feed that back up in. Now I'm not going to do it right now because I've still got to clean that pocket out. But what you'll do is you'll actually put thread locker down in that hole. before I go too far, I probably should get some thread locker in there. But now, once you get the post threaded in, you'll feel it start to grab a little bit at the bottom. See, it's a little bit wiggly now. You'll feel it start to stop at the bottom. That's when you'll take your piece of leather and you'll wrap it around the top, just like we took the old one off, right? You'll wrap it around the top, crank down on it, and turn it. Little quarter turns. Make sure you get some red thread lock inside of there. And you'll run that down until it bottoms out. And then you put your, obviously I've got to go through and take this back out, but then, I actually made a boo-boo there. I've got to take the, and put the top nut on first. On this plane specifically, you cannot replace either one of these nuts without doing both. You have to do both, or you have to take the, you have to take the vertical post out. So you have to take the vertical post out in order to put these on. And like I said, this see how tight this is? You grab it again in the middle. And it'll only be tight during initial installation until it basically works its way in. And then after the initial installation, then it's no big deal, right? I'm gonna grab there and kind of get it down past that tightness. Right there's the tightness. The very, very top is a little bit of a taper thread to allow it to get on there. And then it starts to get tight in the middle. As you can see here, you really got to kind of crank down on it to grab it. As you can see here, there's a little bit of brass debris in there. It's fitting itself to the post, basically. Now, once these are on, like I said, once they're fitted to the post, it's not that big of a deal. You kind of work your way around it. Now, you should take your leather off. Get her set up in there. And again, it's a very tight fit, guys. This is not going to go in there real easy. It's a little, there you go. Now, starting to bottom out there. Now, if this was done, which it's not, because I still got to put the thread locker in there, I would run this down wherever I wanted it to run down. And you see it's still pretty tight there. Now it's nice and tight, nice and good. So that is the replacement for the vertical post. So if you guys need to order vertical posts, they'll be available pretty soon. These are already available online. They're like, I think $12.50 or somewhere around there for the pair, which is pretty cheap, if you ask me. Worked my butt off to make sure the price was low enough to be able to do that. So anyways, that is replacing a vertical post and the nuts. Just need a piece of leather, nice and thick. Don't get thin leather. You will damage the threads. You cannot damage these threads. If you do, if you grab these straight with a pair of vice grips, that nut will never go on. You just ruined yourself a vertical post. Just need your leather, pair of vice grips, a little bit of patience, and some red thread locker, and some sort of acetone or cleaner, because you got to clean down in that hole, and you need to clean this post really well. All right, so that's that simple as far as doing the repair here. I'm gonna get off of here now, and then I'm gonna start another video and show you guys how to get the best use out of your X-Plane, how to make the micro adjustments and all that stuff, the thing that it's actually famous for. So, see you guys in 20-30 minutes, and we'll go over an X-Plane. If you guys have any questions at all whatsoever about the vertical post replacement or the nuts, please reach out to me and let me know. All right, talk at you later.